So for the sake of nose goes, who's the oldest? I think Liz, right?
Liz is the oldest.
Yeah, 36.
God, when I hear that, that's like that's not old, but to me it's like you seem like younger than me in like your look and like in an age like in presentation. So, like and I'm like, "Oh, you're 36." I'm like, "Damn you old bitch." Like
Oh
you
my
collected Social
God.
Security
Chill
yet?
the fuck out. Yo,
How old are
that's
you?
wild.
You
That's
just turned
wild.
30, right?
Yeah, I turned 30 last year.
Yeah, so Britt's 30 and I'll be 29.
Man, I am an old bitch.
Yeah, low key, but you don't act like an old bitch, so it's
No.
okay.
I mean, we go to bed at like 8, 9 p.m., so kind of old bitch territory, but I mean,
No, that's successful women bodybuilder
you're right.
territory. That's what it we're not old bitch territory. We have to get sleep so we can perform.
We call that beauty sleep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But
If
Liz,
I
like,
look
how
like
did
my
you get
yeah.
started off with like health and fitness and kind of like where did you start? How did you start?
Yeah, so a little backstory. Growing up, my mom has MS and then she had Hashimoto's. She had a lot of autoimmune conditions. So just seeing her health decline and all the struggles that she struggled with her weight, everything like that. It was really hard for me to watch, but from a very young age, I remember like being in science classes, learning about some of those conditions and stuff, and being like, this is something I want to learn more about and maybe be able to do something to help other people in the future. And on the other end, my dad was a huge health nut. He was a vegetarian, and he always used to like tell us we couldn't eat like junky type of foods and was very strict about that stuff. So at a young age, he kind of planted that seed of just the nutrition side of things for me.
Hmm.
And then in my own personal life, I struggled a lot in my teen years, early 20s with both disordered eating and then with alcohol abuse. So it wasn't until I found the gym that
Hmm.
I really hit a turning point with that. Like instead of partying and treating my body badly, instead I started wanting to be strong and wanted to learn how to fuel my body properly. So it was all kind of my own personal journey from the beginning there. And then I kind of stumbled into coaching. One of my best friends when I was in college, her mom was like, "Hey, I want you to work out with me. You're in great shape, you know." And I was like, "Okay, let's go to the gym." And she's like, "No, no, I don't feel comfortable in a gym setting. Like I have bad experiences. Can you just work out with me at home?" And I was like, okay. So then I did that. Then her friends started joining her. And I kind of realized a lot of women felt that way if they didn't feel comfortable in a gym setting. So I kind of just happened upon this whole in-home training thing. And I made my whole business out of that in Arizona. I did all in-home training and started like getting my own equipment and just bringing it to people's houses and everything. And it slowly grew from there. Um, and then it just kind of evolved over the years. I graduated from college. I had my undergrad was in dietetics, and then my master's is in obesity prevention and management. So I didn't originally plan on just continuing to be a coach after that, but that's just kind of where things continued to go. I really like working with people one on one and helping them grow and be able to help them with their health and become more confident. And so it just kind of went from there, and then online things happened and now it's all virtual, so I love
She's like, and
that.
then Mark Zuckerberg came along and it just came
Yes,
from there.
and now
COVID happened and
I get to do it all online, which it's funny because I think people assume that in-person training is more effective, and I don't know how much. I know, Britt, you did some in-person training too. Ash, did you?
I started with personal training. Yep, I went to school for it, which we'll talk about that.
Yeah. But I feel like people have this assumption of like in person would be better, but I feel like the amount of things that we cover with the virtual coaching is just there's no way you can cover that in just a like in-person session when you're doing the workout.
Mhm.
And that really gets them the best results because we're working on so many things outside of just getting a workout in. And I think they have that idea of I'm showing up for my personal training session and I did the work and that see you next time, you know, and not doing the things in between that they had to do. So um I think that covers most of my why. In terms of who I coach, I do specialize in obesity prevention and management, but I work with all types of people. anyone really committed to bettering themselves. And I mostly work with women. I have a handful of men, but I really have a passion for coaching neurodivergent individuals. I personally was diagnosed with ADHD late in life, and that kind of helped me realize like the way I communicate and things like that are it all makes sense now, you know? And I feel that when I work with other individuals who have ADHD or on the spectrum, like we just connect in a certain way and
Mhm.
we kind of understand each other. So I find that that's a special group that I like to work with. Um, but just anyone ready to commit to learn and wants to really live a healthy lifestyle long term. It's not the quick fixes for me or anything like that. Just someone wanting to learn how to live the healthy lifestyle forever,
I
because it
love
is
that.
a lifestyle.
I do have a question about your childhood, if you wouldn't mind opening up. So, with your mom having MS and being really sick, but then on the other side, your dad being a total health nut to the point where he was vegetarian, were your parents together raising you, or were they divorced and therefore you had that dichotomy?
They were together till I was like 13 and then they
Mhm.
got divorced, but my dad was always very supportive and probably a little annoying to my mom of like trying to get her to like eat the healthy things. And I
Mhm.
remember them telling me that even when she was pregnant with me, like he was having her drinking like spinach shakes and smoothies and things like
Celery juice.
exactly. Um, but I something I clearly remember is, you know, with MS, it can progress very quickly. And they told my mom she at some point wouldn't be able to walk. And she was kind of like, screw you, I'm gonna be able to walk. So my mom
Hell
and my
yeah,
dad,
that's a matriarch right there.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
and, we lived in Massachusetts and we were near Tufts University, and there was a walking, what's it called? Track there.
Yeah.
So they would take me and my brothers and we would like run up and down the bleachers and they would walk around the track for I don't know how much they would do, but I remember that clearly being something that they like committed to doing to make sure that she could continue to walk and kind of stick it to the doctors who said she couldn't.
Yeah. And you've watched her like kind of steadily get worse over time, right? And that's kind of like why you were very health focused.
Yeah.
Got you. Got you. I didn't know that about you. So when you like for those like that are listening, like we kind of have like a shared document based on like what we want to talk about and a bunch of notes. And Liz kind of like put her major notes. And when she said growing up, I watched my mom struggle with MS, the minute I read that, I started bawling because I did not know that because that was actually my origin story with, even more autoimmune issues mixed in where it's like my mom was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, Chiari of the brain, MS, muscular dystrophy. In reality, the doctors just don't fucking know. And so while I was growing up, I watched my mom get health deteriorate rapidly to where, like, I remember playing Barbies with her. And then, to be honest, to this day, being 29 years old, like, I couldn't tell you the last time I felt my mom's arms around me. Like, she cannot feed herself. She cannot walk. She cannot take herself to the bathroom. Anything that we take for granted, from brushing our teeth and brushing our hair to going to the gym and picking up a dumbbell, none of that she can do without assistance. And so that was a big driving force for me getting healthy after, essentially I treated my body like a total jackass growing up being a kid. And granted, we didn't really know about like nutrition and stuff like that. Being from Midwest Ohio, it's like, if we were eating a vegetable, it would either be slathered in ranch or Velveeta cheese. That's just what we knew and what we grew up in. And so when I was 16, I was the heaviest I've ever been at 260 pounds, really needing someone like Liz with obesity prevention. But alas, Liz was not doing what she's doing now when I needed her. But
Probably
being
starved
sick,
myself
I
by
know,
that.
tragic, right? But being 16, and this was actually before like huge internet boom. So we're talking about like AOL chat rooms when I was like 16, right? So it was really like magazine focused, Tumblr focused, which is how I got like my majority of my education with nutrition. A little bit of bodybuilding.com. I will slide that in there, a little bit of the bodybuilding forums. And a lot of like that fad diets, yo-yo dieting bullshit. And it wasn't until I downloaded my Fitness Pal and started to keep record of calories and macros to some extent did like the weight loss finally stick, but being so young and impressionable. And I'll be honest, being a chunky monkey, that doesn't really get the fellas' attention. But it wasn't until I started dropping weight that fellas were taking notice. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm getting compliments. I'm getting, that external validation. Let's fucking keep going. Because unlike Liz, I don't have ADHD, I have OCD. And so that addictive type A personality that thrives off perfection, checking off boxes, order, precision, that's where I'm crazy. And it unfortunately got so bad to the point where I went from 260 to 120 in about a year. And like just skinny fat, like cold, anorexic, all of the bodybuilding things that we'll feel at the end of contest prep, that was just another day in the life being 17, 18 years old. And because I was quickly the health and fitness girl in high school, I was like, I'll go to school for it because I wanted to be a personal trainer. And because I wanted to be a personal trainer and I was a first gen college kid, I didn't realize that you just needed a little certificate, not like a degree. So, went to school for that. But I will say, even though I'm a little jaded about like the ACE certificate versus my Ohio University degree, that's where Britt Holloman and Ash Markham, technically Ashley Fish, first linked up with a spin class via Paramore. And that's how Britt and I got linked up, was literally at Ohio University. She was my spin instructor.
No, I
Yo,
love
it's
this.
so funny because I had someone the other week tell me that like I won't name any names, but they were like, me and Asher are really cool. Like we're friends. And I go, oh, trust me, we are too. Like we started in like college in a spin class a long time ago. I know that bitch. I know that bitch.
Like, that's what's wild to me. And then, like, when I was talking with Ash Spilker, like, she was also at Ohio University when Britt and I were, not as an official student on campus, but just going for partying. So, literally, the three of us, without even knowing it, were like a fucking, like, Illuminati, like, just like hanging out there. And we didn't even know each other really that well. That's like wild to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's interesting, Ash, that you said that part about the external validation, though, because that is where my eating disorder basically started, was
Mhm.
I went vegetarian basically because all of my friends were vegetarian. Like,
Yep.
yes, I cared about the animals and I was getting like icked out by eating meat, but it was also like the popularity of literally my entire friend group doing it. So I started losing weight by accident when I went vegetarian because I just, cut back on foods, and then I started getting the compliments. Like you said, like everyone's like, "Ooh, you look good. What are you doing?" And guys giving me attention. And
Mhm.
then I was like, in my head, I was like, well, I cut back on food and that gave me those results. So let's just keep cutting back on food. And it just got worse and worse. And then for me, since I was struggling with the alcohol too, like the teenage drinking, I was not eating anything and I was drinking everything. So it was just a recipe for disaster. So there was a little phase in my life where I was just a little mess.
I think everyone has that phase where they're a little bit of a mess
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it gets them to where they are today. So
exactly.
I've had multiple messes
Yeah.
and we're here.
She's like, I've been a hot mess for a really long time. We
I've
still
been
here.
I'm okay. We're good.
It's kind of
Like
like when you think back to like, you know, we're adults now, and then we think about how our teachers were like our age, and it's like, oh, they were probably a freaking mess.
yeah, like we think that by the time we're 30, we're supposed to have it all together with the house and all that. And it's like, and the marriage and whatever. I think the closest one to that right now is Ash. And Ash is the
What?
youngest. She's the youngest out of all of us. And
Again, OCD.
we're trying to figure it out. Okay. So shit.
We all got our own
That's
timelines.
Yeah, it is really, really funny. But yeah, that's how, like I said, that's how Britt Holloman and I originally hooked up. But like again, like I didn't have my shit figured out. And then again, just due to my extremism, not to like not like say that vegetarianism isn't good, but I was like, what's even more extreme than vegetarianism? Veganism. So it was like hat on a hat. Because again, like you were so fucked up mentally about your relationship with yourself and food, and you just want, because you feel so out of control, any ounce of control that you can exhibit on your environment, you're gonna fucking hold. You're gonna hold on for dear life. And that's especially true of kids with very unstable households, whether it is sickness or abandonment or divorce or just instability, is like it instills fear in the child to where they either get so anxious that they want to control everything or they become severely detached, where they just kind of dissociate and kind of become lone wolves. And it's something where it's like I was so anxious and just wanted so desperately to feel loved that like I essentially destroyed myself in the process, right? And looking back on that and reflecting upon that, I was like, God, I would not want another person to go through what I went through when it comes to quote unquote health and fitness. Because in the first, if we look at my, 260 to where I'm at now, 11 years, 11, 12 years, like it was the first shit decade. Like maybe, 8, 9 years of it was so just toxic and rooted in more sabotage than it was health. I was like, listen, if I could like save another, especially female, like 8 years of their life and not doing what I did, shit, that's what I want to do. And that's kind of what got me into coaching. And kind of like Liz, it's for everyone, like anyone that just wants help, that has the courage and the self-awareness to acknowledge that they need help and then the courage to ask for it. Like that's who I want. And of course, like yeah, as a competitive athlete, I do love working with other competitors, but rather than just competing for the sake of stepping on stage, it's like competing to be an athlete. Right. So whether you're Gen Pop lifestyle, even functional health, all the way to a competitive athlete, my goal is to make sure that I pull out the best in you, not beat out the bad, because I do attract, much like Liz and how she works with a lot of ADHD cases, I do work with a lot of OCD, anxiety, high type A people because that's who I am. I work with them on learning to focus on the right things and focus on being better because we're really good at beating ourselves up to the point where it is like detrimental. So it's like, as your coach, I don't need to be wailing on you further, right? It's more focusing on like pulling back so we can continue to push ahead. And again, focusing on the right stuff, which is why, like, I do think it's really important to surround yourself with good, strong people. And especially when I was talking
Women.
with, yeah,
Sorry.
no, no, for sure, for sure. But like, I
Sorry,
remember I
not
was
sorry.
talking with
I'm just playing on the theme of the podcast is all.
he was, we do need something
Shadowing.
like that. But no, I remember talking with Liz back, and I think it was December, where I was like, hey, I have this idea that like I want you to be a part of, and I have no idea how we're gonna make it to fruition, but like I want something for females because like this is a very big male dominated industry and like place. And I know that us females have our own strengths and our own benefits. And so it was like, will you help me? And then I was thinking of even like, who else do I respect that's high up? And I was like, well, of course, B. Like that's duh. And so the fact that this is like now happening and we're recording episode 1 and talking about like who we are and what we want to create, like, dog, that shit's cool.
Yeah, it's solid. I mean, like, I feel like this came from many different angles and how it got going. Like you were feeling that way, and I had my own experience last
Mhm.
year, like, transitioning from a different team and stuff like that. And like I think that it just started to naturally be like, yo, like what can we do for people like us, right?
Mhm.
Like, and it starts to get your mind turning and gets you to think like, oh shit, there's not really a huge support system for women in coaching and for those that are trying to find their voice, or maybe like they don't know where to start. And it's very easy to get overshadowed when you're in a male dominated industry. And so I think that's really like where this all came from is wanting to create like support, because this is we support each other.
Mhm.
And so, like, when you're a woman supporting other women, you're creating an energy that's very, very powerful. Whereas when we're competing with other women, it is a lower vibrational energy that doesn't get you to where you really want to be.
Mhm.
So I think that in a world where women are constantly being pitted against each other, instead there needs to be a unified group and support for one another so that we can help empower each other, help instill confidence, help you with alignment, like all of those things. Like, what do these things really mean? Like, when you hear these words, we're here to break down what these things actually mean in a female circle of leaders. So
Mhm.
instead of looking at each other and being like, she's doing that, and what could I do that's better? Instead, we should be thinking in a feminine need. Instead of me, it's we.
Mhm.
So I think that this is going to be really good for all of us. and then all of the people that are listening as well.
Yeah, just a small example of something that I remember in my kind of coaching journey because I had my own business and then I worked for a team and now I'm back to running my own business. But I remember when I was on my own the first time, like on social media, I'm friends with a lot of coaches and things like that. And I wouldn't really share other coaches' content because I'm like, well, why would I share their content? Like that's pushing their business. And then I learned that through sharing each other's content and stuff, it's like, well, either way, like we're all out there. There's plenty of people out there who need our help enough to go around, but we're creating that support system and we're spreading good like knowledge, things, ideas like that. And I noticed like when I started sharing other people's stuff, they started sharing my stuff too. And I'm like, oh, like look at this. This is nice, and I think
This
just
is
real
nice.
I'm like, this is
That's so Liz.
nice.
That's so Liz, bro. Sorry.
No, you're right though. It's like you're creating camaraderie rather than competition. Because like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like coaching is a lot in a lot of ways kind of like dating, where it's like, yes, you need to have the knowledge and of the physiology and the psychology when it comes to getting results. Duh. But once that is like, neck and neck, and maybe you specialize or niche down depending upon who you are as a coach and individual, the rest is a personality match. It's, in relationships, it's understanding love languages, and professional relationships, it's still creating that effective communication and working together as a team through collaboration and hearing and then understanding, right? But it is so important to understand that like the three of us know virtually all of the same things, plus or minus a few like specificities due to our background and education. But at the end of the day, we all have very different personalities and different tonalities and how we run our businesses and how we conduct our lives. And one client could work with all three of us and think that we're all wonderful people, but might resonate more with Britt just because of who she is. And like, that's not a knock against Liz or me. That's not to say that we fucking suck, because we don't. But still, it's something where it is so important to understand like what the athlete needs and what, coaches need to be able to provide when it comes to servicing all levels of clientele based on all different like even educational levels when it comes to like how smart they are in the fitness world. Because I'm sure someone that's brand new to the fitness world versus who is a coach themselves, how you coach either of those individuals is going to vary widely. And that does come at a huge expense of learning how to coach those individuals as a female, right? Because again, we take all these courses, all these mentorships with a bunch of males. And it's not that they're bad. It's not that like I, for example, hate working with Austin Stout. No, I've been with him for 4 years as a mentee, 3 years as a coach client, because I do trust Austin so much. But we also want to make sure that because of there being a lack of females at the level that like we want to aspire, all three of us, it is important that we take, a female coach first starting out from where they're learning to the impact they want to create by leading. And that just starts with, again, that communication and that community of strong, independent female leaders and building upon it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like when you're expanding on that idea too, like you're also helping women in the space derive their own authenticity
Mhm.
and encouraging them to express themselves without fear of judgment or needing external validation for their expressions. And you find that a lot when you're just starting with coaching. A lot of times you'll put out your creative nature, your posts and things like that. At least I did this. Maybe I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I posted and I was looking for that external validation from other higher coaches. And what you want to do is instead instill confidence in yourself and help yourself speak with clarity and conviction.
Mhm.
So, whether that's personal relationships, leadership, creative expression, anything like that, this includes setting boundaries with yourself and looking for the healthy, not the right, but the healthy aspects of validation from that authority.
Mhm.
Um, and ultimately trusting your own instincts. So when we're thinking about like women, it's all about, at least from my perspective, we want to encourage women to be wild and trust their instincts because a lot of times we don't. We'll shove down how we feel, trying to coach like men.
Mm,
When we're not men, we are women. So that all goes in line with your alignment and purpose, in that, like, a strong voice doesn't mean to be loud.
mm,
It means to be aligned with your own values. So first you need to figure out what your values are, right?
mm,
And then you can break through conditioning from there. And then you can create an impact on the world. And then you can practice tools to, like, strengthen that voice.
mhm.
So it's going to be a really awesome and beautiful thing here to see how this develops and how it impacts other people, cuz it's like I feel like it's really the first of its kind. So,
Mhm. I would agree. And I feel like you touched on a mistake that I made earlier on because I knew I always wanted to help and impact and lead. And I knew how I wanted to do it. But I definitely got caught up in mimicking and pretty much downright like taking another personality's a male figure that I was working with. And I just like saw what I thought was success. And I was like, hmm. I almost felt like Kirby, where like with Kirby, like they suck up other people and then become like a mini version. Like I did that as I sucked up that personality and projected because I saw that as success and I wanted so badly to be successful in others' eyes. And I thought that was like the only way to do it. That instead of like projecting Ash Markham and being confident in who I was, I projected someone else. And like while it was cool in getting external validation because it's like, oh, steps, claps, like yes, I agree, in reality, it wasn't who I was. And I wasn't nearly as successful as I am now because, like Britt said, it's a strong voice. It's my voice. And it's not loud. It's not superfluous. It is who I am. And that is attracting who I want to work with, which
mhm.
leads and breeds more success. And then it also breeds more community because now the two of you want to have a podcast together and create this matriarch method where we focus on empowering other female coaches in health, fitness, bodybuilding, leadership, marketing, all of these things where, like Britt said, it is severely lacking to the point where this is going to be the first of its kind. And we want to make sure we also do it right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think you guys both know this, like on my end, just because I've shared my experiences with you, and Britt, you witnessed this yourself in a lot of my experience before. But I, similar to Ash, also just tried to kind of like be someone I wasn't for the sake of becoming a better, more successful coach. Sorry, my dog is sneezing in the background.
Bless you, Henry.
But um, you know, just like we were talking about before, different strokes for different folks, that type of thing. Like everyone's going to have different athletes who are drawn to them. And I used to look at this coach over here and be like, oh, she's like so upbeat and like such a cheerleader. And I love that about her. Maybe I should be more like that. Or like, this person has this quality that I really admire, but I would just get like stuck on those things and then
Mhm.
try to like change myself to be like that. But I don't need to be, like you said, I don't need to be loud. I don't need to be something I'm not. Some people don't need a rah-rah cheerleader. I'm not like a hard ass. I'm like very chill kind of. And I've had athletes be like, I really like that about you. You're not over the top. You're not like too much in either direction. And the people who like that style are going to come to me. And the people who like the cheerleader are going to go to that person. And you know, we should look at ourselves and look at the type of people that we're going to connect with.
Yes. And then also how we want to go about, like, our own authenticity too. So, like you said, basically what you're saying is, like, it was hard to be authentic when I'm comparing myself to other people and what they're doing, and paying way too much attention to what people are doing online and saying online and acting like on, you don't know if they're being real or not.
Yeah.
So it's like focusing on you and what you bring to the table is the healthiest thing. And I myself and Liz last year were working on a team, and while it was a good experience, I also think that being off on our own has allowed us the space to really understand how we want to show up and
Mhm.
how we want to coach people, and what type of methods we actually align with and which ones we don't. Things like that. And so I just think that there's so many learning opportunities to take this space for yourself as a woman
Mhm.
to really understand who you are, and then be proud of the voice that you have. Because if you're not proud of your voice, you're going to dim it. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to dim it. You're going to try to be like other people. And you need to be proud of who you are in your own alignment and authenticity first and foremost. But you guys, I didn't get to introduce
I
myself,
was
and I
just
I
about
was
feel
to
about to
say,
I
say.
didn't like I I just started talking. Um but I actually didn't write any notes about like my upbringing or anything like that, so I'll try to just go off the fly. Um I my name is Brittany Justice Holloman, and
Hey!
I coach primarily. I do have a little bit of a niche here. I coach primarily bodybuilders. And it's growing that way. So it doesn't mean that I don't coach other people. It's just growing in that direction. So I'm just gonna be blunt and upfront. I think if you asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have been like, I coach everybody. And I think that's changing, and it's very clear that it's changing. But I like to work with people that wants to develop themselves internally. And so my coaching methods with awakened physiques are in lieu of how can I get you to reflect on what's going on internally so that your body will develop in the way that we want it to. And so that's been what I've been relearning and learning through as I've been with awakened, well, not with awakened physiques, but coaching on my own for the last couple of months. Um, And as far as my upbringing, my mom was actually a figure competitor. A lot of you have heard this story if you're listening. My mom was a figure competitor. I started off with just knowing that she liked competing and she liked lifting weights and she liked being in the gym. Prior to that, she was in track. So I've always been around a parent who really valued health, but then also valued her appearance. And so you have pros and cons to that, right? So as I grew up, I was concerned a lot with how I looked. And I wouldn't call it a bad thing. I was just hyper aware. I was just hyper aware of my appearance. And so I learned a lot about how to change it because I knew that that was something that I could control based on what my mom was doing as a young child. Now, my mom didn't push anything on me. It was all up to observation. So for those parents out there, or I'm not a parent yet, but if and when I become one, I will know that my child will absolutely observe what I do. And so because of that, like when I was out of high school and I had graduated and I went into college, I started dieting. Like I started understanding nutrition and I started kind of looking for my mom's approval in it. And so I would show her like, hey mom, I'm depleting right now. I'm trying to figure out how I can change this part about my body. And she would be like, "What are you doing? Like you're too young for this. You don't need to do that." And I go, "I know, but it's cool. Like I know I like that I can control this." And so it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I started in personal training in 2014. So woo, I've been in the fitness industry for over a decade now. And then it just kind of grew from there. And that's where I met Ash in a group exercise class was where I started. And then it just grew. It just grew and COVID happened and I went online fully. And I think that all of us to some degree are a product of COVID. Um, like we all went fully online then, right? Am I right about that? Right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
pretty
I mean,
much.
we're
I moved to Florida in 2018, and that's when I really started online because I was like, I'm not doing a whole in-person roster from scratch, is basically. So
yeah.
I was like, but I did work another full-time job until like 2 years ago. So
Yeah, I didn't go full time in coaching until 2022.
Mm.
But I was coaching a couple years prior to that. And yeah, I would say I'm definitely a product of COVID because when I tried to go back in person after a year and a half of being remote from my other job, I could not acclimate. Like I'm just gonna be honest, like I couldn't. I got to do whatever I wanted on a day-to-day basis with my meals and stuff.
Mm.
I'm a meathead. So for those of you that aren't like figuring this out, I'm a big meathead and like I loved getting my meals in on time
Mm.
every time without the stress of other people. And because of that, I was like, I can't fucking do this. I'm going full time with coaching. I don't give a fuck. And so I did. like so and I love also helping women of color as well. I wanted to
Mm.
like make that a point. I think one of the main things and drivers in terms of athletes that are attracted to me and clientele is that they don't see very many
Mhm.
coaches like myself. And so when we're talking about good fits, sometimes it's someone who can relate to some of the unconscious struggles that you go through on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And so that's also something that I really advocate for, and I push my voice toward, because I know that those women need it.
Mhm.
So, and those people need it, both men and women. So,
Absolutely. I do want to touch on what you said about mimicking because I think that is so important to also talk about because obviously there are some coaches that are moms and some coaches that are not moms. But regardless, with you being a coach, you are going to be mimicked. Your clients are going to look up to you as a source of leadership and a source of like a higher standard, a Roman Empire, if you will. And it's something where it is so important to understand that when there are eyes on you, that you take that seriously because as a coach, you are a source of an educator and a leader. You are someone where people are looking up to you for your expertise. And people can sniff bullshit a mile away. You might be able to get by and squeak by for a little bit, but eventually you're going to be out. And it's really important to understand your role as a coach and to have a strong foundation, which is the entire part and point of this podcast and eventually the community that we're going to be building out is making sure you have a voice and you have a solid firm foundation so that way, as you start to gain success and gain skills, you're able to stack and learn and grow effectively. But if your foundation is not there, if it is built on anything but hard, solid steel, like when pressure comes, it's just going to completely crumble. And I think it is really important to especially note on that because, like, obviously, as kids, we are very impressionable. We look up to our parents. Like, I remember drinking Slim Fast shakes at 4 or 5 years old because I saw my mom doing it. I didn't know
yeah.
that was for dieting. I just thought it was like, different color, different flavored milk. But again, like if a other person saw a 5-year-old drinking Slim Fast, they'd be like, "Yo, what the fuck is this kid doing?" Now, granted, I probably did need a Slim Fast shake when I was 5 years old, but that's beside the point. It's important to understand that when you are young and impressionable, whether that is a biological year or just an educational year, when you're first starting out as coaching, you need to make sure that you're looking up to the right leaders, right? You want to make sure that your path is not already off track before you even get started. So I think it is really important that you surround yourself with the right community and create the right network so that way you're able to be a huge success story for a really long time, not just like a quick hot flash in the pan and then simmer, you're gone.
Yeah, and I think this is something that we can and will cover on a future episode, but just like also knowing what to be aware of in terms of some like the bad eggs and like,
Mm-hmm.
the negative things out in the coaching world. Like if you're going to work for another team or if you hire your own coach or whatever, like, there's things that kind of slide under the radar and then you don't realize till you're already in it. So I think creating awareness around that and making sure everyone knows what to look out for there.
Yeah. Awareness is huge. Like I was just telling one of my friends, like how do you want to express yourself, and like who are you wanting to attract and who do you want to work with long term? Okay? So I just had a launch for my website a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you noticed in my launch, like I was fully clothed, like I wasn't walking around like in my bikini and stuff, not yet at least. But if I'm going to advocate and I'm going to market my business, I have to be taken like seriously, right? So if you for me, like I want higher level athletes, those are who I want to work with. If I'm going to be taken seriously, I have to make sure that I come in a way that is powerful and modest and can be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not if I came on and I was just walking around in my bikini, even though that's what I do, that's not what I'm marketing toward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, the level of growth that comes from a coach as a female is going to be how well others can take you seriously while you are also at the same time authentically being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so having awareness surrounding that, and then also malpractice in the coaching space as well, and how to sniff out bullshit
Mm-hmm.
is super important, right? So if you go on my page, I'm very proud of it. So I'm just going to talk about it. Like if you go on my page, I'm pretty sure you could take me seriously.
Hmm.
Like I think you guys can tell me if you can't, but I'm pretty sure you could take me seriously. There's a lot of other coaches out there that are doing things for attention,
Mm.
for just validation and attention from other people, and it's very easy to see. So,
Dude, I remember I always followed this girl for a really long time, and then she posted a picture of herself in a bikini, and it wasn't even necessarily tasteless, but it was just like a bikini in her kitchen promoting her meal prep company that sponsored her. I looked at that, clicked to her page, clicked unfollow. I was like, she's allowed to do that. It's her body, it's her page, whatever. But I was like, I don't take that seriously. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's like there is a time and place to promote your physique in a
mhm.
way that makes sense and brings about your business. But like highlighting your abs when like your dick skin lean from your show, promoting your meal prep company, like boobs pushed up to your fucking ears, like to me, that is not the strength that I want to invoke as a female. Like, yeah, I'm proud of my titties, but you know why I'm proud of my titties? Not because I have fake tickle bitties. It's because I bought them with my goddamn money that I worked for. This was not money from Eric. It is not money from our joint marriage account. No, this is money that I had saved up ever since I was like 15 years old because I knew I wanted fake tits. And I
Yeah,
told Eric,
that's
even when we got married, you are not touching this money. This is my titty money. And when I was
that's
19, 3 days post show, I don't recommend that, but three
don't
days
do
post
that.
show,
That's all
don't do
good.
Don't
that.
do it.
Even
No.
Daddy John Jewett got on me. Don't do it, guys. But
Yep.
3 days post show, I got my titties. So that to me is power. But here's the deal: I don't need to like promote my titties. Like my titties are my own, and I love them. I'm proud of them, but they don't got to be exposed to the world. You know what I'm saying?
And it's no judgment. It's no judgment for showing your body like on social media. I want to be clear about that.
Mm.
But we have to look at the societal view about that and somehow play into it while also being authentic. So
Yep.
I'm not saying it can't happen, but if you're trying to promote yourself as a coach and a business owner, there is a time and place for that type of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you're going to use your own physique as marketing, but again, I like that what Ashley said is like there's a time and place for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so having awareness on how some people do it. Like just see like you can literally see it. And I'm not just talking about showing your body. It could also be how people speak, how they talk about other people, like how they are able to educate others without putting other people down. Like that type of shit matters. So like there's so many ways that you can figure out what's what and we'll be able to break that down for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in terms of like that authenticity and even just what you're showing on social media, like I remember I had a friend who had probably at least 1 million followers, and she went from what she was doing and then she was trying to go full time with coaching, and she was like kind of confused about why she wasn't getting a lot of like athletes out of it. And you look at her followers, it was mainly men, and it is mainly people who aren't following her because of her knowledge, it's because of the type of content she was posting,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and it's like the follower count doesn't always mean that it's going to translate to success in a business standpoint. And it's, you got to
Yeah.
ask, why are they following me?
Yes.
Exactly. And then also like remembering that because we are coaches, we're not selling donuts. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is like it is much easier to sell low ticket item things because you are essentially opening your business up to not lower income, but people that are willing to spend 5, $6 on a donut, especially if it's like a gourmet donut that's Instagrammable for again that external validation, but it's more of a quick dopamine hit. When it comes to coaching, especially with how the three of us are wanting to coach, it's not just some like la-di-da 3 month commitment or 3 month challenge. It is an investment in your internal being to bring out that external change, especially when it comes to competitive athletes, but even like functional health and lifestyle. It's like that inward transformation in order for the physical manifestation to follow suit is so important. That's a time commitment. And with that time commitment is a, pretty intense financial commitment on the athlete's end. And so it is really important to also understand that because it is a significant investment you are asking someone to invest in, like your marketing, your education needs to be at a high level for that person to feel like their investment's going to be worth it. If not, why not just buy a $49 program that, 100,000 people have all done the same, use it for a week, and then it just like collects space on their, PC essentially in their storage folder and they never touch it again. But it's like, if you want to make an impact, you're going to need to make impact.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of work on your ends too, because it's like I literally just told this to Ash last week. I was like, "Damn, it is stressful becoming a better coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's stressful. It's time consuming. There's a point I think in every coach's career. There's several points. I can't just say that there's one point. There's several points where you go through these massive, they're not even transitions, but massive times of learning, and you start leveling up as a coach. And I can tell you each time I've done it, and I'm in one right now. And it's stressful, it's time consuming. You start looking at all of your methods and you start adjusting to what you know now and what you don't align with anymore. And so it can be very challenging when you're doing that as a coach, especially as a female coach, because in order for you to keep leveling up, you have to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to trust yourself to be able to sell a higher ticket item or to sell your coaching at a higher price because you know what you're worth, because you know you're putting in the work for it. So,
Mm-hmm. Dude, I love that. I remember I was talking to one of my, again, another female coach, and she was like, I have really bad imposter syndrome right now with a story that I just posted. And I was like, tell me why. And she's like, I just feel like I don't know what I was talking about. And like, we were going back and forth about like, you literally have like not only hardcore data evidence from labs from pre and post programming, but you even have like before and after photos of your athlete with significant changes in body
mhm.
composition. And she's like, I just don't feel like I know as much as other people. And so it's like, why am I even talking about this? And this is literally what I said. I was like, what your job is as a coach: to lead by example, to educate, to listen, to impact, to get results, to do the most good and the least harm, which extends to both not only your clients, but also yourself. What your
Mhm.
job is not as a coach is to compare
Mhm.
your clients to others and to compare your knowledge to others. When you play that comparison game, you are going to lose every single time. So it's learning to cut out the chatter, the mindless chatter, and focus on doing what you need to do as a coach to be successful. And more often than not, that's just kind of like getting out of your own way, stopping the self-negative bullshit that's not helping you. And if you're going to be critical, bitch, you better bring facts to the table, because I better see factual evidence that proves that you need to change something versus you just berating yourself just because that's what you know best.
Apps, bitch.
Damn, I should have been fucking recording that, like you said, to have dual.
Yeah.
Damn,
See, you
fucked it
were you
up.
were flowing right there. You were flowing. I mean, we have the recording here, but you were fucking going. You got that shit.
Damn.
I should have
Eric, I
recorded a
was
lot of.
flowing.
I should have recorded a lot of things that I said. I was like, damn, bitch, I didn't know you had it in you. Like,
She's like, that's not bad for a white girl here.
No, but I think it with a lot of internal struggles, if you just keep asking someone, why do you think that?
Yeah,
Okay,
tell
why?
me why.
Okay, why? Like
Mhm.
that can really go a long way. And I do that to myself, like when I'm journaling, I'm like, okay, why? Why, Liz? Why are
Yep.
you thinking that way? What? And then you usually get down to like the deep nitty-gritty stuff that you need to work on, you know?
that
Yeah.
cat, one brain cell.
One brain cell. Guys, he has such bad anxiety. He makes himself throw up in the morning for attention. I'm not even kidding you. He is fine. He does not have a medical condition. He just regurgitates so that way we clean it up and pick him up and he's fine. Is that not needy as shit?
That's wild. I've never seen
Like,
I've never heard of.
but you know how cats
Wow.
will yowl? They'll yowl for attention. And so we go up to him and they go, "Bleh!" And then
You
I
know
have
what
to
my
mop
cat?
his shit up and
You
he's
know what my
fine.
cat does? He just knocks things over and then he looks at me. And he's like, all right, she's not gonna do
Like,
anything. She's not gonna come up and pet me or even tell me no. I'm gonna knock this over. And then he'll look at me. And
I
he'll
love
wait.
that.
He'll wait until I get upset enough. And then he'll put his ears back. But he knows what he's doing. He just wants attention. He just wants me to come over and be mad at him or be happy or something. He wants something. That's kind of like the internet. It's kind of how the internet works.
Yeah.
All attention is attention. Like so
That's the
cats are that's what I gained from
facts.
cats are the internet.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, Okay, well,
I think that's a good place to end it,
I
honestly.
think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the podcast to continue on. I'm excited for eventually the Discord to be up and running because obviously the whole point is to create value and to encourage community. So not only are we going to be like releasing more podcasts on a weekly basis, but also we'll get the Discord group for exclusive members for you guys to not only engage with us, but engage with other female coaches when it comes to discussing and troubleshooting client cases, lab work. You know, Brittany's going to be really focused on the leadership and marketing because that's where she shines. Jesus, she shines, she shells by the seashore. But like the three of us all offer such a unique dynamic and perspective, and where one lacks, the other fills. And so this is just going to be such a well-rounded community. And we're excited to build that with you ladies as well, because it is so important to understand this is going to be female leadership for female entrepreneurs and female coaches in the health and fitness industry that doesn't extend to just bodybuilding coaches. It doesn't just extend to lifestyle coaches. It doesn't even just extend to functional health coaches. Is any female coach that wants to get better. That's who this is for. And I'm so excited to create this with you ladies. And I'm very proud of us for doing this because this takes some fucking lady balls to
Yeah,
do
we
this
have
too.
lady balls. We have balls, they're just ladies. They're just female balls.
I don't know how Eric's going to clip this, but it's going to be female balls.
We need a shirt that says I have lady balls.
I have big lady balls. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And on that note, we'll catch you next time, guys.
Bye.